let's talk about the highly anticipated Blade Runner 2049.
All right.
You know what? There's rarely a sequel where I think it actually surpasses the original.
Mm-hmm.
You have The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
You have The Godfather Part 2. Not so that I'm saying this is The Godfather Part 2, but I think Blade Runner 2049 is one of those films that can join those ranks. I feel like
absolutely. Yeah.
I feel like it was better than the original in every way. And I'm not coming in as a fanboy or a hype man.
Yeah.
Because, like, I always liked Blade Runner. I at first wasn't in love with it, but as I got older, the more I studied film, the more I loved it. I think Blade Runner and Alien, those were kind of like the two movies that were so much better than what Ridley Scott's work was later on in his life.
Yeah.
Blade Runner 2049 had so many more layers of depth, and instead of just aping the original or trying to recreate scenes from it or trying to, force feed nostalgia on its audience, it stays true to what it is, which you have to do when something is so well known. But it also builds upon it and adds further depth to it. And the most wonderful thing that I absolutely commend Denis Villeneuve for, and this movie has not made a lot of money in the box office, and it's very sad, but in a way it's a good thing, is that this movie doesn't try to set up sequels, it doesn't try to set up other characters, it doesn't try to franchise build, it just does its own thing. It's its own complete story. Thank God.
It does. This movie stands alone. I think that's important when making a successful sequel. I mean, I would barely call it a sequel. It's just more of a follow-up to have an excuse to revisit some of these characters.
You get invested in this new protagonist. Ryan Gosling isn't just in the film to be Ryan Gosling. As a matter of fact, I mean, I'm glad they put Deckard in it. He worked for the film, but the movie could have worked maybe just as well without him in it.
Yeah.
And it could have just been Ryan Gosling's story, and we would have been invested. The only thing is, you could never sell that movie, without Harrison Ford in it.
Well, not to say he didn't play a vital part in the, in the plot.
Yeah. But like the best part of that movie was probably like the first. This is a long film. It's like 2 hours 48 minutes. Yeah. But the best parts of that film was when it didn't talk about the events of the first film and all that, but when it was just a story about this guy trying to figure out who he is and what's going on.
It's really about so much more than what the original Blade Runner was about. And, it takes those themes that were in the book to Android Sherman of Electric Sheep and expands upon that. It's taking the themes about like humanity and what it means to be human when you're not a human. And, that's...
They literally say more human than human in it.
Do they?
Yeah.
Can we talk about the score? Yeah, I definitely enjoyed that score, which also, took a little bit, kind of copied the style a little bit of Vangelis, but gave it its own voice.
It paid homage to it. It still had the synthesizers, but it was its own thing. It was just like this film. It was its own unique sound. And, I will say that you could argue that Hans Zimmer sort of uses his style sort of in a way where it's maybe tacky to a certain point where, you go to a Hans Zimmer score, he's going to constantly use that effect where the music is sort of going up and down simultaneously. There's a great video on YouTube that sort of explains. Yeah.
That is because Zimmer is taking advantage of an auditory illusion caused by something called a Shepard tone.
The thing is, it works effectively in a film, And obviously in some movies, like, it wouldn't work so well. Like, he could have put that in something like Gladiator, which is like an entirely orchestral score. We can't go off without talking about Roger Deakins and his cinematography in this film.
Yeah.
I mean, it was stunning.
I've never worked on a film with so many sets and different lighting patterns. Technically, it's quite challenging.
Roger Deakins is one of the most well-known cinematographers of all time here, you know? I mean, like, outside of the Coen brothers, he's worked with everyone. A lot of the film is kind of like fuzzy and in the dark, sort of like Ryan Gosling's character, where you don't know where you're going from one point to the other and nothing makes sense.
The climate is much more harsh and brutalistic. The architecture, to some extent, is reflected in that. There have been certain sort of seismic events between the two movies that we will start to unfold for the audience.
I think the visuals definitely make up for some of the story problems. Not to say that this movie is filled with story problems. This is definitely a good movie, good story, compelling throughout. I felt like I was kind of predicting what was happening. I was going to say, okay, well, he thinks he's this kid, but there's no way that it's going to be that easy. So he's probably not. It's probably somebody else. It could probably be this girl who's creating the dreams that he meets.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, I kind of saw that. I kind of saw that coming. So I really wasn't surprised by any of the plot points.
The future of the species is finally unearthed.
Anyone who enjoys movies will probably enjoy this. I think if you're not patient enough to sit through a nearly 3-hour movie that is very has some
slow.
I kept saying to Ryan, walk slower, again, walking slowly.
A lot of slow walking
pacing,
shots.
Has the pacing of the original Blade Runner. I mean, I'm a big fan of a slow moving story. If everything else is there aesthetically pleasing, I recommend this movie. I think you should definitely go see it. Tell your friends to see it. But it is a challenging piece of work. And like anything else, it is something that people are going to talk about for a long time.
It brings in so many questions, but it also provides closure, and it doesn't world build. This is sort of like if Hollywood funded an art film in a way.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, this is a multi-million-dollar art film where, you know, it's a movie that's not interested in building more sequels. It's interested in challenging its audience, in taking its time and letting you observe what's around you. Mm-hmm. And for that, I commend Denis Villeneuve, who took on this challenge with so much heart, and everybody in that production did. And absolutely go see it and buy it on Blu-ray. See it on the biggest screen you can with the loudest speakers. Just enjoy this treat of a film. And really, if you don't enjoy it, you're a moron.